The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. Most people spend their entire lives trying to be heard. They fight for attention. They fight for recognition. They fight for the chance to prove that they matter. Every conversation becomes a competition. Every disagreement becomes a battle. Every room becomes a stage. And yet, despite all this effort, they remain frustrated, unseen, misunderstood, disconnected, because they have been taught one of the greatest lies in modern society. The lie that influence belongs to the person who speaks the most. The lie that power belongs to the person who dominates the conversation. The lie that success belongs to the person who constantly announces their value. But history tells a different story. The greatest leaders were not merely speakers, they were listeners. The greatest negotiators were not merely persuasive, they were observant. The greatest influencers did not begin by talking. They began by understanding, and understanding begins with listening, not the kind of listening where you remain silent while preparing your next response, not the kind of listening where you wait impatiently for your turn to speak, but the rare kind of listening that allows another human being to feel seen. Because every person you meet carries an invisible hunger, a hunger to be understood, a hunger to be valued, a hunger to know that their existence matters. And the person who satisfies that hunger becomes unforgettable. This was one of the greatest discoveries of Dale Carnegie. As he traveled across America, studying successful people, business leaders, politicians, entrepreneurs, and ordinary individuals, he noticed something extraordinary. The people who attracted trust most easily were rarely obsessed with themselves. They were fascinated by others. They asked questions. They paid attention. They remembered details. And because they made people feel important, people naturally wanted to be around them. Think about that for a moment. The world teaches you to focus on being interesting. But the truly influential person focuses on being interested. That single shift changes everything. Because attention is one of the most valuable currencies in existence. Money can be lost and regained, opportunities come and go. But genuine attention is rare, and in a distracted world, rarity creates power. Look around. People are constantly speaking, posting, explaining, arguing, defending, broadcasting their opinions to anyone willing to listen. But very few are truly paying attention. Very few are present. Very few make another person feel like they matter. And that is why genuine listeners stand out, not because they demand attention, but because they create connection. And connection is the foundation of every success story, every business, every friendship, every partnership, every movement, every leadership journey. At its core, success is built on human relationships, and human relationships are built on understanding. The person who understands people gains access to opportunities that talent alone can never create. Because people support those who understand them, they trust those who hear them, they follow those who respect them, and respect begins with attention. Yet most people never learn this lesson. Their ego gets in the way. Their need to be right gets in the way. Their desire to impress gets in the way. So they talk and talk and talk, while the truly powerful person quietly observes, learning, absorbing, understanding, building an invisible advantage, because every conversation contains information. Every person reveals clues. Every interaction exposes desires, fears, ambitions, insecurities, and dreams. But only those who listen can hear them. And those who hear them gain something far more valuable than approval. They gain insight, and insight changes everything. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The most powerful person is often the one who understands the room better than anyone else. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful, and that understanding creates a kind of strength that cannot be faked, a strength that does not depend on titles, a strength that does not depend on status, a strength that does not disappear when circumstances become difficult. Because real influence is never borrowed from position. It is earned through trust. And trust grows when people feel understood. Think about the people who've had the greatest impact on your life. The teacher who changed your perspective, the mentor who gave you confidence, the friend who stood beside you during difficult times, the leader you respected. What made them unforgettable? Was it their ability to talk endlessly about themselves? Was it their constant need to prove their intelligence? Or was it something deeper? Most likely, it was their ability to make you feel heard, to make you feel valued, to make you feel like your thoughts mattered. That is the silent power Dale Carnegie discovered long before social media, smartphones, and endless distractions existed. Human nature has not changed. Technology has changed. The world has changed. But the human heart remains the same. People still want appreciation. People still want understanding. People still want connection. And the person who masters this truth gains an advantage that time cannot erase. Because while everyone else is competing for attention, you are building relationships. While everyone else is speaking, you are learning. While everyone else is trying to impress, you are creating trust. And trust is where influence begins. Look at the greatest leaders throughout history. Abraham Lincoln was known for listening carefully before making decisions. Walt Disney paid attention to what people loved and imagined a world around those desires. Andrew Carnegie built relationships with talented people and understood the value of human cooperation. They did not succeed because they had all the answers. They succeeded because they understood people. And understanding always begins with listening. The problem is that listening requires something many people are unwilling to give: patience. Patience is uncomfortable. Patience forces you to slow down. Patience forces you to stop making everything about yourself, and for the ego that feels like weakness. But patience is not weakness. Patience is discipline. The disciplined mind does not rush to react. It observes. It studies. It waits. It understands. And because it understands, it responds with precision. Most failures in communication happen because people react before they understand. They assume, they interrupt, they defend, they attack. And in doing so, they destroy opportunities they never even realized existed. Imagine how many friendships end because nobody listened. How many partnerships collapse because nobody understood. How many careers stall because nobody paid attention. The cost of poor listening is far greater than most people realize. Yet the rewards of great listening are extraordinary, because when you listen deeply, people reveal their goals, their fears, their motivations, their dreams. And once you understand what truly drives people, you can connect with them in ways that others cannot. That is not manipulation. That is wisdom, because wisdom is not knowing everything. Wisdom is understanding people. And understanding people allows you to navigate life with clarity. It allows you to avoid unnecessary conflict. It allows you to recognize opportunities others miss. It allows you to build relationships that become the foundation of future success. Many people spend years trying to become more persuasive, but persuasion begins long before you speak. Persuasion begins when the other person feels understood, because people rarely resist someone who genuinely understands them. They resist pressure. They resist arrogance. They resist force. But they respond to understanding. And that is why listening is not passive. It is active power. It is influence in its purest form. The world celebrates loud confidence. But there is another kind of confidence that is far more powerful. Quiet confidence. The confidence that does not need to dominate. The confidence that does not need validation. The confidence that does not need to prove itself, because it already knows its value. That confidence listens. That confidence learns. That confidence grows stronger with every conversation. And while others are exhausting themselves trying to be noticed, the quiet observer is becoming wiser, stronger, more effective, more influential, because every person becomes your teacher when you know how to listen. Every conversation becomes a lesson. Every interaction becomes an opportunity. And over time, those lessons compound, just as money compounds, just as habits compound, just as discipline compounds, understanding compounds. A person who spends years truly listening gains an extraordinary perspective on human nature. They begin to see patterns. They understand what motivates people. They understand what destroys relationships. They understand what creates trust. And that understanding becomes one of the most valuable assets they possess. The world celebrates loud confidence. But there is another kind of confidence that is far more powerful. Most people believe respect is demanded, but respect is earned. And one of the fastest ways to earn respect is to make others feel respected first. That idea sounds simple, almost too simple, which is exactly why most people ignore it. Human beings are constantly searching for complex solutions to problems that require simple discipline. They look for secret formulas, hidden strategies, advanced techniques, yet the fundamentals remain undefeated. And one of those fundamentals is this: people never forget how you make them feel. Years from now, they may forget your exact words. They may forget your achievements. They may even forget specific events, but they will remember how they felt in your presence. Did they feel judged or understood? Did they feel dismissed or respected? Did they feel insignificant or important? That emotional memory stays with them long after everything else disappears. Dale Carnegie understood this better than most. He realized that the deepest human desire is not wealth, not fame, not power. It is significance. Every person wants to feel that their life matters, that their thoughts matter, that their existence matters. And the individual who can genuinely give that feeling to others becomes magnetic, not because they are trying to be liked, but because they understand human nature. This is where many people make a critical mistake. They confuse influence with control. They think influence means convincing others to do what they want. But true influence is different. True influence is creating trust, and trust cannot be forced. Trust must be earned. One conversation at a time, one interaction at a time, one moment of genuine attention at a time. Think about a river. A river does not force its way through mountains through one massive push. It shapes landscapes through consistent movement, day after day, year after year. Its strength comes from persistence. Influence works the same way. Small moments repeated consistently create extraordinary results. A kind word, a thoughtful question, a moment of patience, a willingness to listen. Individually, these actions seem insignificant, but together they build something powerful, a reputation. And your reputation becomes your silent ambassador long before you enter the room, long before people meet you, long before opportunities appear. People form impressions, stories spread, trust grows, respect develops, all because of how you consistently treat others. This is why success is rarely a solo journey. The myth of the self-made individual sounds inspiring, but history tells another story. Every great achievement involved people, partners, mentors, supporters, employees, friends, teachers. Nobody rises completely alone. The person who understands people gains access to strengths beyond their own. They attract cooperation, they inspire loyalty, they build networks of trust, and those networks become bridges to opportunities that talent alone could never reach. Look closely at any successful person. Behind every achievement, you will find relationships. Behind every breakthrough, you will find cooperation. Behind every victory, you will find trust. And trust begins where listening begins, because listening is the foundation upon which every meaningful relationship is built. Without it, communication becomes noise. Without it, leadership becomes authority. Without connection, without it, success becomes lonely and fragile. But when listening becomes a habit, something remarkable happens. You stop seeing people as obstacles. You stop seeing them as competitors. You stop seeing them merely as resources. You begin seeing them as human beings. And that shift changes everything, because understanding creates empathy. Empathy creates connection. Connection creates trust. Trust creates influence. And influence creates opportunity. That sequence has built more fortunes, careers, and legacies than most people realize. Yet it all begins with a skill so simple that it is often overlooked: listening. Not because listening sounds exciting, not because listening attracts attention, but because listening reveals truth, and truth is always valuable. The person who understands reality more clearly than others gains an advantage that cannot easily be taken away. Because while trends change, markets change, technology changes, human nature remains remarkably consistent. People still want to feel important. People still want respect. People still want understanding. And the individual who provides those things will always have influence. Not temporary influence, not manufactured influence, but genuine influence rooted in trust. And trust survives where popularity fades. Trust survives where trends disappear. Trust survives where appearances collapse. Because trust is built on something deeper than image. It is built on character, and character reveals itself most clearly when nobody is watching, when there is no reward, when there is no applause, when there is no immediate benefit. Will you still listen? Will you still care? Will you still seek understanding? Because that is where true leadership begins. Not in front of crowds, not on stages, not through titles, but in private moments where you choose curiosity over ego, understanding over judgment, patience over reaction. And over time, those choices shape who you become. Not overnight, not instantly, but inevitably. True leadership begins not in front of crowds, but in private moments where you choose curiosity over ego. Because every day you are becoming someone. Every thought shapes that person. Every habit strengthens that person. Every decision defines that person. And the quality of your future will be determined by the quality of the person you choose to become. Most people never consciously make that choice. They drift. They allow circumstances to shape them. They allow opinions to shape them. They allow fear to shape them. And little by little, they become a reflection of their environment rather than a creator of their destiny. But the individuals who leave a mark on the world do something different. They become intentional. They understand that character is not discovered, it is built, just as a skyscraper is built one beam at a time, just as a masterpiece is painted one stroke at a time, just as a fortune is accumulated one decision at a time. Character is constructed through repeated choices. And one of the most powerful choices you can make is choosing understanding over judgment. Because judgment is easy. Anyone can criticize, anyone can complain. Anyone can point out flaws. But understanding requires effort. It requires maturity. It requires strength. The weak mind rushes to conclusions. The strong mind seeks perspective. The weak mind reacts emotionally. The strong mind searches for truth. And that difference changes the direction of an entire life. Think about how many conflicts could be avoided if people simply paused long enough to understand each other. How many opportunities could be created? How many relationships could be saved? How many doors could be opened? Most battles are not won through force. They are won through understanding. And understanding comes from listening. This is why listening is not merely a communication skill, it is a life strategy. It allows you to learn faster, lead better, connect deeper, grow stronger. While others are trapped in their own perspectives, you gain access to perspectives beyond your own. And every new perspective expands your vision. A person with a narrow vision sees limitations everywhere. A person with an expanded vision sees possibilities. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is openness. And openness begins when the ego stops speaking long enough for wisdom to enter. There is a reason truly wise people often appear calm. They are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they understand more. They have listened more. They have observed more. They have observed more. They have learned more. And knowledge gathered through observation creates confidence that does not depend on circumstances. Because confidence built on appearances is fragile, confidence built on understanding is unshakable. One disappears when challenged, the other grows stronger through challenge. This is why some people remain composed in chaos, while others panic, while others complain, while others lose control. The composed individual has learned to listen before reacting, to observe before judging, to understand before deciding. And that habit creates extraordinary strength, not dramatic strength, not loud strength, but lasting strength, the kind that survives setbacks, the kind that survives fate bias, the kind that survive disappointment. Because every setback contains information, every failure contains instruction, every disappointment contains a lesson. But only if you are willing to listen. Most people hear failure and immediately shut down. The successful person listens. Most people hear criticism and immediately become defensive. The successful person listens. Most people hear uncomfortable truths and immediately resist them. The successful person listens. And because they listen, they improve. Growth belongs to those who remain teachable, not to those who believe they already know everything. The moment an human stop learning, you stop growing. And the moment you stop growing, you begin falling behind. That is why humility is not weakness. Humility is a competitive advantage. It allows you to learn where others stagnate. It allows you to improve where others defend. It allows you to evolve where others remain trapped. Dale Carnegie understood that every person has something to teach you. Every person knows something you do not know. Every person sees something you have not seen. And if you approach life with that mindset, every encounter becomes valuable. The stranger becomes a lesson. The colleague becomes a lesson. The friend becomes a lesson. Even the critic becomes a lesson, because wisdom is hidden everywhere for those willing to listen. And when you live that way, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing people. You stop competing with everyone. You stop chasing approval. Instead, you focus on growth, understanding, mastery. You become secure enough to learn from anyone, strong enough to admit mistakes, wise enough to change, and adaptable enough to thrive, because the future belongs to adaptable people. The future belongs to learners. The future belongs to those who remain curious when others become rigid. History proves this again and again. The people who succeed are rarely the strongest, rarely the loudest, rarely the most talented. They are often the most adaptable, the most teachable, the most willing to understand. And understanding always starts with listening. The future belongs to adaptable people. The future belongs to adaptable people, to learners, to observers, to those who refuse to let their ego become larger than their potential. Because the greatest prison in life is believing you already know enough. The moment a person becomes unwilling to learn, they begin moving backward, not because the world stops changing, but because they stop changing with it. And life has never rewarded stagnation. Life rewards growth. Life rewards courage. Life rewards those who remain open long after others become closed. That openness is what transforms ordinary individuals into extraordinary leaders. Not overnight, not through luck, but through thousands of small moments where they chose wisdom over pride, understanding over assumption, listening over speaking. And eventually, those choices compound into a completely different life, a life built on trust, a life built on influence, a life built on genuine connection, a life that matters. Because at the end of the day, success is not measured only by money, not by titles, not by possessions. It is measured by impact, and impact is impossible without people. The person who learns to understand people gains access to one of the most powerful forces in existence: the ability to inspire, the ability to lead, the ability to uplift, the ability to change lives, including their own. So the next time you enter a conversation, resist the urge to prove yourself, resist the urge to dominate, resist the urge to impress. Instead, listen. Listen with curiosity. Listen with patience. Listen with genuine interest. Because hidden inside every conversation is an opportunity. Hidden inside every person is a lesson. And hidden inside the simple act of listening is a power that can transform your relationships, your influence, your success, and ultimately your life. The world is full of voices, but very few people truly hear. Become one of them, and you will discover that the quietest power is often the strongest power of all.